This real estate market is a tricky one, especially if you are trying to sell your house before purchasing your next house. What's going on, everyone? My name is Garrett Kirby, local real estate agent here in West Michigan, mainly servicing Kent and Ionia counties, but anywhere here in the great state of Michigan. I've sold homes as far as Detroit, Michigan, as far north as just south of Gaylord. So really anywhere here in the state. Love real estate and happy to help in any way I can. Now, this real estate market, as you all know, is extremely tough simply due to the fact that interest rates are a little bit higher and new listings are just few and far between. So any house that does come up is typically seeing multiple offers and multiple super competitive offers at that. Now, if you couple that with having to sell your house before you purchase your next house, that throws a whole new element into it that could add some struggles for you as the potential home buyer that needs to sell their house first. But thankfully for you, we have a couple options here for you to use at your disposal when it does come time for that. Now, the first option you have as a home seller / buyer is making your purchase contingent upon the sale and closing of your current house. However, this is the hardest option to get accepted simply because if the seller has two offers side by side, both the exact same terms, however, one of them is stating that they need to not only sell their house, meaning find a buyer and close on the house, but they also have to successfully bring that to the closing table before they can go ahead and close on the home that they are purchasing. Whereas if the other offer just says, hey, we'll just buy the house, take 30 days to close like normal, they're obviously going to go with the one that takes just the 30 days to close as normal. But it is an option if the home has been on the market for a while, which is very rare again here in this market, for you to make the purchase of your next house contingent upon the sale and the closing of your property. Now, if this is a route you are trying to take, make sure you and your agent sit down and really think about what you need to do to get your house ready to list. Really what we would recommend, honestly, if this is the only option you have, is to get everything ready for the listing prior to even starting your home search, getting the pictures taken, getting the documents ready, getting everything around so that we can put everything into the MLS so that when you do find your property to purchase, we can say, hey, we will list the property tomorrow if you accept our offer. So that way in the seller's mind, maybe there's an advantage there that, they're not going to have to wait, the potential week for photos to come in and then another week to go ahead and review all offers. And then hopefully you can just go ahead and quick turn around your sale of your house and make that process as smooth and as simple as possible. Now, option number 2 is just making it contingent upon the closing of your house. Now, one thing you can do here is you and your real estate agent can allow showings, list the property, and field offers as they come in, or potentially even do something off market so you find a buyer prior to you going ahead and purchasing a house. Now, this option is a little bit tricky at times. We did do it multiple times here last year and a few times here this year as well. But what you would have to do is say, all right, potential buyers, we'll go ahead, I'll list my house, but I'm going to need an additional 30 to 60 days after close to live in this house so I can find my next property before you can go ahead and move in. So it typically takes 30 days to close. It is very common for sellers to get 30 days after close to live there. And then it is in rare circumstances possible to get 60 days after close. So what that timeline would look like, you get an accepted offer here today, 30 days before it's legally someone else's, and then another 30 days after that is the common practice right now in this real estate market, meaning from the day you get an accepted offer, it would take 60 days for you to have to move out of that house on average. The advantageous part about this when you're trying to purchase a house is now your purchase is only contingent upon the closing of your house, not the sale and closing. The sale implies that you need to go and find a buyer first. But with this option, you have already found your buyer and you can go ahead and just worry about closing that house. We just did that here earlier this month for one of my past clients and repeat clients. It is very possible, but just know if a seller on a house you're trying to purchase has multiple offers, even having the contingency of just the closing is going to make it very difficult still to get a seller to accept that offer on a home you are trying to purchase. But it is much better than the contingent upon sale and closing. Now, one new option we've had here with this new real estate market and this hyper-competitive market is to actually put in the listing. So we'd go ahead and list your house first, but we would set the precedent up front that your home will not close until you find suitable housing. Now, this one can be a little tricky because when you do list your house and you are waiting and you're fielding offers, you're fielding showings, now it can be very hard to have and find a buyer who is like, okay, you know, I'll sit around and I'll wait for you to find a house, whether that's 2 months, whether that's 3 months, whether that's 6 months. You will have to specify a timeline in that contingency. However, just with the nature of this market, there are quite a few people out there who may find this advantageous because maybe they're on a month-to-month lease and your house fits everything they possibly want. So now you can go ahead, accept their offer, and kind of hold on to it and keep that buyer locked in while you go out and shop for houses. This would still make your home contingent upon you closing on the house, but you've already found your buyer. And it doesn't have the kind of ticking time bomb like the last one in option 2. So this one would not close until you go ahead and close on your new purchase. So really, what we would say in that instance is all offers will be contingent upon the seller finding suitable housing and closing on another property. If seller's new home purchase does not close, then the sale of this property will be terminated and the buyer will retain their EMD. EMD is just their earnest money deposit, which the buyer puts up front within 72 hours of an accepted agreement. And if something falls through, the home sale or home purchase, both contracts would be terminated and you would not be homeless and the buyer would no longer be able to purchase your property. Now, when an offer comes in and it does not have that standard language in it, what you would have to do is you'd have to go ahead and counter and say the seller and buyer agree that this purchase agreement will automatically terminate if the seller is unable, seller is you, to secure suitable housing under contract and close on that future home on or before X date. So with this, there is kind of like a ticking time bomb that's like kind of like, oh, you have to find a house here in 2 months, or you have to find a house here in 3 months, 2 weeks, whatever the timeline you set is. However, the nice thing about this is that you have the ability to, if you aren't able to find a house, you can go ahead and sort of back out of the current agreement you are under. It is, it's very likely in this housing market with just the extreme low inventory that you can find a buyer that is willing to wait around. But at the same time, it also limits your buyer pool substantially because most people are wanting to move into a house hopefully in the next couple of months. Now, are they willing to wait around for 6 months? Who knows? I'm not saying it's going to take 6 months, but it could take 6 months if your search criteria is super duper specific. So that is an option. Number 3 is something very new, but it is something we are going to start seeing probably a lot more just because sellers are wanting to move. It's just waiting for that house to come up. Now, if that ticking time bomb deadline comes up that says, hey, if I'm not able to secure a future house by X date, you can go ahead and extend that, but the buyer would also have to be willing to go ahead and do that. I am happy to help in any way I can here in Michigan, whether you're buying, whether you're selling, whether you're investing, whether you think about anything real estate related. I'm an open and honest resource. Happy to help in any way I can. 616-902-5933, GarrettKirbyRE.com. And we'll see you in the next one.